Hey, this is Dr. Akiba Green. We're here to talk about a big $3 medical term, methylation. More importantly, we're going to talk about what you need to know about the MTHFR gene. My practice, Lake Norman Health and Wellness, does a lot of testing on this gene. I'm going to give you a lot of information about why it's important that we test for it. So, methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase, or MTHFR. I know it sounds very confusing. It's kind of naughty at the same time. I've actually had patients say, I have the mother what gene to me, and we get all kinds here in North Carolina. But the key thing is, it's a name of both a gene and an enzyme. It can confuse us a little bit more, but it primarily impacts the folate or folic acid cycle. The gene's role is to produce an enzyme that converts folate or folic acid into the body's bioactive form, methylfolate. Now, methyl what? Yeah, right. If you have this genetic mutation, it results in a defective MTHFR enzyme. This leads to a substantial reduction of the enzyme's function. So if you have this gene problem, folic acid doesn't work as well in your body as it should. Why is this a problem? Well, because the folate cycle is smack in the middle of a multitude of interlinking processes or cycles in the body. If you look at this system, you've got multiple different cycles. Folic acid is right in the middle of it. All these different things are involved in it. So if this doesn't work, none of these are getting done. And why is this really a problem? Well, on one side, it affects production of serotonin, dopamine, and a host of other neurotransmitters, and therefore impacts mood and mental health. On the other, it's involved in the recycling of homocysteine, which is a major inflammatory marker we deal with, which affects brain, nerve, and cardiovascular systems. And that homocysteine goes into methionine, which is an antioxidant. Even SAMe, which some of you may have heard of if you have neurological symptoms, is a major methyl donor that's involved in almost every process in the body, and it's responsible for DNA and RNA and phospholipids, essential in the creation of every single one of our cells. How about glutathione, which is the body's major antioxidant? MTHFR mutations are linked to all of these different things, and that's been really simplified. I really promise you it's a lot more detailed than that, but it's important to understand that the impact that a faulty MTHFR gene can have on the entire body is so far-reaching, it's considered to be linked to a host of chronic diseases, including cardiovascular disease, clotting disorders, thromboembolisms, congenital defects, recurrent miscarriage, neurotube defects, infertility, chronic fatigue, multiple sclerosis, migraines, anxiety, ADD, autism, cancer, diabetes, depression, schizophrenia, bipolar condition, addictions. Gosh, it's linked to a lot of things. How common is it? It's actually been estimated that approximately 50% of the population has a genetic default in the MTHFR gene. If you're of Asian, Mexican, or African American descent, your risk is even higher. There's a whole lot of us out there who are experiencing suboptimal health and potential increased risk for chronic disease. With autism on the rise, the war against cancer not getting any better, and depression affecting records of Americans, are you getting the sense that this MTHFR can be kind of a big deal around here? So, I want to give you a little bit of terminology. MTHFR equals methylene tetrahydrofolate reductase. It's a gene and it's enzyme within the folate cycle. If the gene is faulty, the enzyme that it makes is also faulty. Enzymes are catalysts to speed up certain biochemical reactions in the body. And if the enzyme is faulty, it results in a reduction in the enzyme's ability to function. And nucleotides, the building blocks that make up your DNA. There's something called a SNP, or SNP. It's a single nucleotide polymorphism, or genetic variation, which occurs in the DNA affecting one of these nucleotides. So if there's a change in your DNA, this is what we're looking at. The numbers 677 and 1298 are two positions in your DNA where the MTHFR gene can get messed up. And you can have one copy of the gene from either parent, it'd be called a heterozygous gene, or one copy of the gene from each parent, which would be called a homozygous gene. How bad is it really? Well, if you're found to carry a MTHFR polymorphism, there's a few things we have to note. Number one, the SNP, the single nuclear polymorphism, determines the effect of the MTHFR enzyme's function. What that means is, depending on the genetic abnormality you have, determines how bad it really is. In general, a homozygous C677T or compound heterozygous C677T/A1298C, I know it's confusing, your lab test will show that, has an increased risk for neurotube defects, lower plasma folate concentrations, and impacts more upon things heart-related, like a higher plasma homocysteine. Why do we get tested? You want to know what's wrong. Knowledge is always power. If you have an illness or chronic recurrent condition that is not responding to conventional or complementary treatments, This may just be the missing link. If you have a strong family history of chronic disease, cancer, heart disease, depression, recurrent miscarriage, hyperhomocystinemia, or high homocysteine levels, and you want to take preventative steps and be proactive about your health, get this tested. If your idea of living includes too much stress, too much work, or too much play, you need a wake-up call that even though your mates can get away with it, your genetics may indicate it's time to start loving your body a little more. Get tested. The cost of the MTHFR gene test is only $99. Insurance doesn't cover this test because they feel it's not medically necessary, but it is necessary if you want to get to the cause of your problem. Remember this though, if you have an MTHFR polymorphism, it does not mean you're guaranteed to develop a specific disease. Your genes are simply blueprints, only highlight the potential for problems. But again, knowledge plus action equals results. Doesn't this make sense? If you know you have a weak lower back, your favorite activities are probably not skydiving or bungee jumping. You're aware of your weak spot and you take measures to adjust your activities so you can still live an active, happy, and healthy life, just without that experience. How do you treat it? The first steps are diet and lifestyle. Eat lots of uncooked leafy greens to intake your dietary intake of folate. Stop taking supplemental synthetic folic acid. The body can only use one type of folic acid when you have this mutation. Focus on reducing exposure to plastics, carbon monoxide, smoking, alcohol, trans fats, or anything that increases your body's toxic load. Secondly, there's no one-pill-fits-all solution. Everyone's treatment plan is as individual as their specific presenting symptoms, and as such, needs to be managed by a healthcare practitioner specializing in MTHFR. There's good news though. With expanding research and awareness of MTHFR, there's exciting new hope for those with chronic conditions in both treatment options and overall health outcomes. What now? Well, as I said, you have to take action to get results with the new knowledge. The first step is to schedule a consultation in our office to discuss the specifics of your case and potentially order the MTHFR gene test. Call our office at 704-987-3993 and schedule with me, Dr. Green, today.